All right, we're going to dive into a story from the ancient Chinese text, the Zhuangzi. And let me tell you, it's a story so bizarre, so completely over the top, that the immediate reaction from the person who first heard it was, well, let's just say he was not a fan. So that was the verdict from a man named Jian Wu. He heard this tale and basically said it was huge, illogical, and felt like staring into the endless Milky Way. It was so far removed from anything remotely human that he found it deeply unsettling and, frankly, just plain unrelatable. So you've got to be wondering, right? What kind of story could possibly provoke such a strong reaction of total disbelief, maybe even a little fear? Well, the story itself is about a mythical being, a figure that seems to break every single law of nature we think we know. The whole tale kicks off on this remote and mythical place called Gushe Mountain, and it's home to a spirit person with some extraordinary qualities. And when I say extraordinary, I really, really mean it. First up, their appearance. They're described as having skin as pure as ice and snow, with the grace of a young maiden. But here's where it gets really weird. Their diet. They don't eat normal food, the 5 grains that sustain all of us. Nope. They live on nothing but wind and dew. And their abilities? Even more fantastic. This being rides on clouds and mist, commands flying dragons like they're horses, and just kind of roams freely beyond the known world, beyond the 4 seas. They are completely, utterly unbound by any earthly rules. Now, you think commands flying dragons would be the big headline here, right? But the story insists their most important power is actually something way more subtle and way more impactful for the entire world. So get this. The most crucial point is that just by concentrating their spirit, this being brings about a state of cosmic harmony. Their serene presence alone is enough to stop diseases in their tracks and make sure the harvests are incredible, year after year after year. And after hearing all that, the reaction was simple and direct. This is insane. It's crazy talk, and I absolutely refuse to believe it. And honestly, can you blame him? But this is where the whole story takes a really fascinating turn. See, the person Keanu is complaining to, a wise man named Lian Shu, he offers a completely different take. He basically suggests that the problem isn't that the story is crazy, but maybe, just maybe, the problem is with Keanu's ability to understand it. To make his point, Lian Shu uses this really powerful analogy. He says, look, it's obvious, right? A blind person can't appreciate beautiful, intricate patterns, and a deaf person can't hear the sound of bells. But then he argues, this isn't just about our physical senses. There's another kind of blindness, another kind of deafness out there. And then Lian Shu just lays it out there. He says, some people are intellectually blind and deaf. They are completely closed off to ideas that exist beyond their own limited experience and what they think they know. The story isn't the issue, the listener's perception is. Okay, so if we're not supposed to take the story literally, what on earth does it all mean? Let's start decoding this incredible parable. So that spirit person, it isn't some magical creature on a mountain. It's actually a metaphor for an enlightened sage. This is a person whose inner virtue is so deep and so profound that it brings everything in the world into this perfect state of harmony and unity. And that idea of being above it all, that applies to the world's chaos too. The reason the sage isn't harmed by massive floods or terrible droughts isn't because of magic. It's because they've reached a state of being that just transcends all that worldly turmoil. They aren't affected by the crazy ups and downs that cause the rest of us so much grief. And that brings us to the final and I think most powerful layer of this whole parable. What is the ultimate power of this enlightened sage? It's not what you think. They're not a king, not a president, not a CEO. Their power is way more fundamental. This line from the text is just incredible. It says that from their leftover bits, like the dust and the chaff, this sage could create legendary rulers, the greatest sage kings of all time. This gets to a really crucial distinction. The sage is a creator, not one of the things that's been created. Think of them as the potter, not the clay pot. They have absolutely no interest in the messy business of managing the world, because their role is to create the very people who do that job. I mean, why would a potter get involved in an argument between the pots they just made? So, in the end, Qian-O was right about one thing. The literal story of a dragon-riding, dew-sipping person was unbelievable, but he completely missed the point. It was never, ever about a magical being. The story was designed to be a mirror. Its craziness was the whole point. It was a test meant to show us the limits of our own perspective. It forces us to ask ourselves, do we just dismiss what we don't understand, or do we try to dig deeper and see the truth underneath? And that leaves us with one last thought to chew on. If a story this profound could be dismissed as just crazy talk, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What revolutionary ideas, what profound truths might we be intellectually blind and deaf to in our own time, just because they don't fit into our neat little box of how the world is supposed to work?